Alright, so in this lesson we are going to talk about multiplying fractions. Now I'm going to show you several different ways or several different methods that you can use to multiply fractions. You can use whichever method is easiest for you, and ultimately you should come up with the same answer. Now the other thing is that we are going to be multiplying fractions using our negative rules. So I do want to remind you of those very quickly, and you might want to take a second to jot these down somewhere on your notes. There's not a specific place for them because you should remember them from when we did negatives with integers, and they are fairly simple, but again, just take a second to write them down. So when you have a negative times a negative, your answer is going to be positive. When you have a positive times a positive, your answer is going to be a positive. Okay, so essentially when you have the same sign, your answer is going to be positive. Now, when you have a negative times a positive, your answer is going to be negative. And when you have a positive times a negative, your answer is going to be negative. So to summarize that, when you have different signs, your answer is going to be negative, okay? So keeping those in mind as we go through is going to be important. All right, so let's take a look. So in essence, multiplying fractions is not that difficult. So for step one, you are going to multiply straight across the numerator and straight across the denominator. So here we have 2 times 2 is 4. And 5 times 4 is 20. And so you arrive at your answer 4 over 20. And step 2 is going to tell you to simplify. And so you're going to get your GCF of 4 and 20, which is 4. And so 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. And that's how you arrive at your answer of 1 over 5. All right, so let's take a look at our first problem here, and this is where I'm going to sort of show you an alternate method to solve it as well. But first I'm going to solve it in the way that I just showed you, okay? So I'm going to multiply straight across. 4 times 3 is 12, and 7 times 4 is 28. Okay, and so my GCF here is going to be 4. So I'm going to divide by 4, and so 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 28 divided by 4 is 7. And so I get my answer of 3 over 7. Now, let me show you a different way to solve this that people often find a lot easier, okay? And so what I'm going to do down here is I'm going to just simply rewrite the problem. So I have 4 over 7 times 3 over 4. Okay, now this method is called cross-canceling. So what we're going to do is, instead of multiplying straight across and simplifying once at the end with larger numbers, we are going to actually simplify several times in the beginning and then multiply straight across and not have to simplify at the end, okay? So the first thing we do is we look at the first fraction and ask if we can simplify it. Can I simplify 4 over 7? No. Go to the second fraction. Can I simplify 3 over 4? No. Now we're going to go diagonal. So we're going to look at 3 over 7. And you're literally going to picture it in your head like 3 over 7. Can I simplify that? No. Then you go diagonal the other way, 4 over 4. And you literally can picture it in your head or draw it out on paper like this, 4 over 4. Can that be simplified? Yes, it can. It could be simplified to 1 over 1. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to cross out the 4's and I'm going to make them 1's. Okay, now I'm going to do one more quick check. Okay, 1 over 7 is simplified, 3 over 1 is simplified, 3 over 7 is simplified, 1 over 1 is simplified. Okay, now I multiply straight across. 1 times 3 is 3, 7 times 1 is 7. And I arrive at my final answer of 3 over 7. So, real quick, what's the advantage to either method? Well, here you get the multiplying out of the way quick, you simplify once. Here, you are simplifying multiple times, but you're simplifying with much smaller numbers. So that over here, you're oftentimes going to end up with numbers in the hundreds, whereas here, you're going to be dealing with much smaller numbers that you have to simplify. And you can flip-flop between these two methods. Okay, so let's take another look here. So I'm going to do both methods here again. Now I do have a negative here, and I have a positive here. So a negative times a positive, I know my answer will be negative. 5 times 3 is going to be 15. And then 10 times 8 is going to be 80. Okay, my GCF here is going to be 5. Okay, 5 goes into 15 3 times. 5 goes into 80 16 times, I believe. And the answer is negative 3 over 16. But I want to show you the problem one more time with the cross canceling. So here we have 5 over 10 times negative 3 over 8. And you may be asking yourself, why is that negative 3 over 8 in parentheses? The only reason why is just to keep that negative sign separate from the multiplication sign. It is not necessary. It's just, again, for an organizational reason. Okay, so I go to my first fraction. Can 5 over 10 be simplified? Yes, it can be simplified to 1 over 2. Can 3 over 8 be simplified? No. Now I'm going to go diagonal. Can 1 over 8 be simplified? No. Diagonal this way. Can 3 over 2 be simplified? No. So now I'm going to multiply straight across. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 8 is 16. Positive times a negative is a negative. All it does is it reduces the amount that I have to simplify at the end. Okay? Alright, so now I have a negative times a negative. I'm going to multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is 6. 8 times 9 is 72. Okay? So here, my GCF is 6. 6 goes into 6 one time. And 6 goes into 72. I believe it's 12 times, but let me double check. Yes, it is. So, negative times a negative is a positive. So 1 over 12. Okay? Now, let me show you the same thing real quick with cross canceling. Negative 3 over 8. Times negative 2 over 9. Alright, so I'm going to ask myself, 3 over 8, can that simplify? No. 2 over 9, can that simplify? No. 3 over 9, I'm going diagonal. Can that simplify? Yes. 3 over 9 can simplify to 1 over 3. So this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 3. 2 over 8, can that simplify? Yes, that can simplify to 1 over 4. Now I multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 3 is 12. Negative times negative is positive. 1 over 12. Same exact answer. Alright, so from now on, I'm going to stick with one method and you stick with one method. Or you can flip-flop methods, doesn't matter. But I'm just trying to show you that you will attain the same answer. So you go ahead and solve these two with whichever method you please. Alright, go ahead and pause the video if you're not done. So for the first one, you should have gotten 1/2 once you simplified it, and for the second one, you should have gotten -7/24. So remember, you have a negative times a positive, so you're going to end up with a negative answer. And I use the method of cross-canceling here instead of simplifying at the end, but with whichever method you used, you should have arrived at the same answer. Okay, so now, those were just fractions. What do you do if you have a whole number? Well, very, very simple. So step 1, take that whole number and simply make it a fraction by putting a fraction bar over it and adding a denominator of 1. Then multiply straight across as usual. You can still use cross-canceling. You can still just multiply straight across and simplify at the end. So watch here. Here I took this 4 and I made it 4/1. I'm going to multiply straight across. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 7 is 7. 4/7. I'm going to take a second here to tell you though, if you do cross cancel and you do it correctly and thoroughly, what you have done is you have assured yourself that when you get this final answer that you have simplified as much as possible. So for example here, 4/1 cannot simplify, 1/7 cannot simplify, 1/1 cannot simplify, and 4/7 cannot simplify. So at that point I know I'm good to multiply straight across, and 4/7 I know is done. It cannot go any lower. That's why I like cross-canceling, because I never have to second guess myself at the end wondering, is this answer as simplified as possible? So let's go ahead and do this one. I do want you to rewrite it properly. So we're going to take that 9 and we're going to put it over 1 times 1/4. All right. 9/1 is simplified, 1/4 is simplified, diagonal 1/1 is simplified, and diagonal this way 9/4 is simplified. So we're going to multiply straight across. 9 times 1 is 9, 1 times 4 is 4. So 9/4 is an acceptable answer. I also want to make that a mixed number. So 4 goes into 9 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. What's the difference between 8 and 9? 1, and we keep the same bottom. Okay. All right, so now we have -3 times 5/18. So again, keep that -3, but simply put it over 1 times 5/18. All right, I like the cross-canceling method, so that's what I'm going to do. If you don't like that, just go ahead and multiply straight across. So 3/1 is good. 5/18 is good. 3/18 can simplify. So 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 18 5 times. And then, let's see, nope, 6 times, not 5 times, I'm sorry. 6 times. There we go. All right. So then I'm going to multiply straight across. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 6 is 6, and negative times a positive is a negative. So my answer is -5/6. Okay, go ahead and try these two on your own. All right, go ahead and pause if you're not done. Let's take a look. So I did want to point something out for the first one. If you did use the cross-canceling method, you may have noticed Depending on where you started, you may have had to cross cancel a number twice, and that's okay. So like here, I cross canceled 3 and 30, and I got 1 and 10, and then I did the 4 and 10, and I got 2 and 5. That's okay. You may need to cross out numbers multiple times, and that's perfectly fine. So you should have ended up with 2 over 5. For the second one, negative 5 over 3, or negative 1 and 2/3. All right, last bit of the notes here. What do you do if you have mixed numbers? Again, pretty straightforward. We're always going to go back to making them some sort of fraction. So go ahead and take that mixed number, and all we're going to do is we're going to make it an improper fraction. Okay, so 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7 over 4. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22 over 5. Let's see if we can cross cancel here. So 7 over 4, no. 22 over 5, no. We can cross cancel here. 22 and 4 becomes 11 and 2. 7 over 5. All right, so let's multiply straight across. 7 times 11 is 77. 2 times 5 is 10. So we have 77 over 10. Or, how many times does 10 go into 77? It goes in 7 times. 7 times 10 is 70. What's the difference between 77 and 70? 7. And you keep the same bottom. All right. So, let's take a look at this one here. Let's go ahead and make them improper fractions. So, 6½ 6 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 1, that's going to be 13 over 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 1 is going to be 7 over 3. Now let's see if we can cross cancel. 13 over 2 is good. 7 over 3 is good. Diagonal 7 over 2 is good. And diagonal 13 over 3 is good, which means we need to just multiply straight across. So we have 13 times 7, which is 21, 91. And then 2 times 3, which is 6. And then what is that as a mixed number? I'm going to have to divide this one out. 6 goes into 9 once. Okay, so it's going to be 15, that's my whole number, and 1, that's my numerator, 6, keep the same bottom, just like that. Okay, now we have some negatives here, but we have negative times a negative, which we know is going to end up being a positive. So this guy right here, 6 times 6, or 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11 over 6, times 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9 over 2. And then let's see if we can cross cancel. So 11 over 6 is good. 9 over 2 is good. Diagonal 11 over 2 is good. Now 9 over 6 can cancel. Okay, because the GCF would be 3 there, so 3 goes into 9 3 times, and 3 goes into 6 2 times. And just double check one more time, 11 and 2, 3 and 2, 11 and 2, and 3 and 2. All right, looks good. Multiply straight across. 11 times 3 is 33. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative times negative is a positive. Now, how many times does 4 go into 33? 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32. What's the difference of 33 and 32? 1. Keep the same bottom. All right, you're going to try these 4 on your own, and then that will be all she wrote for multiplying fractions. Remember to watch your negative signs. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video if you're not done, and if you are, go ahead and check your answers. Only one of your answers in here should have turned out to be negative, which was this third one over here, the first green one on the top row, -2/5. But other than that, they all should have been positive. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. It's always a good habit to practice writing your improper fractions as an improper and a mixed number, but I'll accept either on a test or a quiz. And that is about it. Alright, make sure you ask me any questions that you have in class. We're going to continue to practice with word problems in the next lesson, but it's very, very important to practice the different methods. If you do not like cross-canceling, do not use cross-canceling. Feel free to multiply straight across and then just calculate the GCF to simplify at the end.